Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, friends, wherever you're joining us from. Thank you and welcome to today's webinar, where we will be exploring the topic, Breaking the Barriers, Differently Abled Men, Challenges and Solutions. I am Dr. Camille Cummings, international domestic violence advocate, and I'm a sociologist and a researcher. Voice of Men 360 is a non-profit organization founded in 2020 and is based in Toronto, Canada. Voice of Men 360 was born out of seeing a tremendous need and stepping up to provide services to help, support, and overcome men and boys' life challenges. We are part of International Men's Day. International Men's Day has been serving for over 21 years, and so far 90 countries around the world joined together and are doing various activities regularly. International Men's Day follows 6 pillars, which is the overall well-being of boys and men. We follow in the same footsteps. We hold these monthly webinars to create awareness on topics such as this, with the hopes of sharing valuable information with our community, as we believe it will be useful in some ways. Now, before I introduce our special guest for today, I would like to go through our disclaimer. We would like to remind you that Voice of Men 360's mission is always delivered with good faith toward peaceful harmony. The views and opinions expressed in today's episode are those of our speakers and do not represent Voice of Men 360. Our organization engages in discussion forums to offer inspiration and create awareness of the issues of men who wish to overcome their life challenges. We are not providing medical or therapeutic advice. Should you require that type of assistance, we recommend you contact a medical professional immediately. If you have questions or concerns about today's episode or any Voice of Men 360 content, please email us at info@voiceofmen360.org. So our first guest is Valerie Alphonso. She is the founder and executive director of community outreach and Second Chance, public speaker, mentor, and advocate for children, persons with disabilities, the disadvantaged, and newcomers. She's also a motivational community mobilizer and human resources leader in both the public and private sector. She is recognized for innovative and effective customer service initiatives and virtual adult learning process. We also have Gloria, Pierre, who is an author, a speaker, a presenter, and a communication coach. Welcome, ladies, to our monthly webinar, and thank you for joining. And I give you the opportunity to each introduce yourselves a little more and tell us about the work you do before we get into the questions. So Valerie.
Good morning to everyone, and thank you, Camille and Sivam, for having us on this platform. It is a wonderful idea that you guys have started, and I think it really needs to expand into something much bigger, hoping that the audience that you're tapping into would automatically see the benefits of these webinars that are being offered by you. I would like to introduce myself as the founder of Community Outreach. When we initially started off with wanting to support the community, it was as simple as that. And once I got my little team in place, at that point, I decided I would register as a nonprofit agency. And 14 years in the making, in between, I decided there was another opportunity to invite individuals that had issues in life, concerns with regards to life skills. And with that, we birthed Second Chance, giving people a second chance. And with that, we offered various essentials that were available to clients across Ontario as a whole. And we've been doing this for the past, as I mentioned, 14 years. Our focus has been helping all diverse groups. It doesn't matter what their ages are, they have to be 18 plus, and then they get the benefits of just coming to us, giving us a call. And now after COVID, we have actually gone into the community to help individuals. So we are taking ourselves from our office space and now going into the community to meet individuals, to find out what their needs are and assist them on the ground. So we are more of a grassroots at this point, and as we go through the program, you'll hear more about what we do.
Okay, and thank you very much, Valerie. And Gloria, would you like to tell us more about yourself and the work that you do?
Yes, thank you, Camille and Sivam, and Voice of Men 360. My company is Clearly Speaking, which I started in 2000, and it's a communication company. I started it because there was an incident in the workplace that happened, and I didn't know how to handle it. So I didn't, which had repercussions, of course, going forward. I wasn't considered for promotion. I wasn't considered for anything else other than what I was doing. So I decided to take matters into my own hand and figure out why is it that I wasn't able to handle the situation, and what could I do to empower myself. And in the process, I did a lot of reading, discussions, interviews with a lot of people from different backgrounds, different ages, different cultures. And what I realized at the end of all of that is that communication is the one skill that we all need. It is the equalizer as such. And it doesn't matter what your social status is, how much money you have in the bank, how much credentials you have. If you can't express yourself confidently and effectively, all that you have doesn't matter. And also, I created a lot of workshops or programs, over 15, and it has been a really satisfying ride since 2000, because I'm getting to meet people who live in Canada, who come from different parts of the world. So they think that they're learning from me, but honestly, I'm learning so much from them. And it's a joy that continues, and I keep learning, and I keep mixing it with what I know and my experience, and then giving it back to the community and to my clients. So this being on this program here today, in this session, is a blessing. So thank you both for having me here. I look forward to more discussion.
And you're welcome, Gloria. Thank you also for sharing. And I want to pose this general question to both of you in terms of your organization. And I want to start off with community outreach and Second Chance. Why or what inspired you to start this organization?
Camille, I think the need, we always go about looking for where can we help. I have been in corporate for the longest part of my life. And then when 9/11 happened, I decided, you know what, I'm being redirected into my vision. And my vision was to help people. I did it for pretty much all the years of my life. But now it became important for me to start it. And it blossomed from wanting to support individuals that were least, had the least in society. And the need was there. The moment you talk to someone, they were always having a need. So it didn't matter whether it was something for themselves or for the family. And that's how it birthed many years ago. I just started the nonprofit agency in 2007, registered it, but I've been in the community for a very long time. And having said that, when we started the agency, we started to notice that individuals that were differently challenged with physical disabilities, with mental health issues, with sometimes visible, sometimes invisible, and we were wanting to help these individuals. We felt they needed a program. And so we said, if you come to us, we are going to help you with employment. Because for me, it was very easy to go out, and because of my background in HR, it was very easy for me to talk to employers and find employment for individuals. But in the process, what we were learning was people, whether it was men or women or young students, youth, we found that they were having challenges with life as a whole. And so I started a program called Second Chance. Let's give people a second chance. let's see what they really have to, what they're encountering, and what are the challenges that we can help them with. And with that, Second Chance was born, and the need doubled and tripled. And over COVID, it went berserk, because we're serving about 9,000 individuals right now with our food program. So that's just the tip of the iceberg. And we have blossomed from there.
Okay, and thank you very much, Valerie. And I do have some more questions for you concerning differently abled persons, particularly men in employment. But I want to also hear from Gloria with regards to her work. Why did she start this work, or what inspired her to get into what she's doing? So, Gloria?
I started because I needed to know how to handle situations. Because I grew up not knowing how to do it. I was not given the opportunity to speak up when I was growing up. So culture, what I discovered was culture has a great impact on communication. And living in North America, where there are so many different cultures, I see the challenges adults have in the workplace and in life and in relationships with communication. They can't express themselves as freely as they want. And it's a great amount of this challenge stems from culture. So I developed a cultural communication program, which is to help individuals, especially adults, to deal with situations that come into their lives. Because we all go through situations or challenges, traumas in our earlier years that we don't necessarily deal with, because we don't know how, or because we were not encouraged, or because the resources were not available. And they do pop up in our adult life, and especially in the workplace and relationships. So I started diversifying my one offering, which is communication for women, into a lot of different programs, which now encompass, as I mentioned before, about 15 programs. And it is effective and for both men and women. I do get a lot of referrals for this service from organizations like Community Outreach, and a lot of my clients refer people to me. So I've been very grateful for the opportunity to arrive at where I am, because it wouldn't have happened unless there was some situation that caused me to think differently.
Okay, thank you very much for sharing that, Gloria. And I want to ask this question to both of you, but of course, with respect to what you do uniquely, how do differently abled men and women, particularly men, benefit from your program? So for example, from Valerie, how do they benefit from career counseling, job placement, etc.? And Gloria, how do they benefit from the service that you're providing that you just described a while ago? So Valerie, you can go first, and then we'll hear from Gloria.
Sure. So Camille, look at it from this perspective. Every individual, whether they're new to the country or whether they've been in the country, have individual issues in life, as well as and different depending on the structure of the family, they could have family issues, right? And there's always what we find as part of Second Chance and the need for supports and services is that some families or some individuals may have a need, which is food, or simple things like clothing, your housing needs. And it could start with, can you help me with, furniture, as simple as that. So it starts with that. But then once we focus on giving them those supports, it allows them to come back to us to say, can you help us? Maybe we're having a legal challenge, or maybe I'm going through depression, I'm going through stress. We would then refer them to counselors and professional counselors that we have on the team. Sometimes if we are not able to do it in-house, we refer clients to external sources. Now, once they find that their life skills are being met, their life issues are being met, at that point, they ask for more information about how they can go into career development. How can I get myself busy? How can I get training? How do I become self-employed? How do I get into employment? Those are some of the issues that we tackle next. But I want to go into a little more in depth into the different challenges that individuals have, whether it is visible or invisible abilities. All right. So I'm going to tap into the invisible realm, which is sometimes the mental health, which is a bigger challenge at this point, because once you have depression, you find there's no hope. And so they're always looking for someone who would be able to give them that light at the end of the tunnel. So in doing the counseling piece with them, we give them that light to say, you know what, it's all possible. It's all possible. And we bring them into a training program. And Gloria is one of my speakers, facilitators as a professional. She comes on board and she really develops their communication skills. That leads into the next step of, how do I go about with trying to get my career, and where do I go next? Where do I take, my career, and how do I do this next? So I think it all stems from simple communication, and that's the biggest piece, and that's why it's so important you had us together, because it really develops individuals. When it comes to men specifically, I find that they don't really ask questions. They want you to somehow pull that information from them. And many of them have a lot of emotion sometimes, and they're not able to express that. This becomes important for us to say, you know what, let's go get you through the proper channels and get you starting to communicate better. And then you'll be able to tell us exactly what you need. And we've seen with women will come out straight off the bat and tell us what they need. With men, you've got to really do a lot of soul searching before you get the information from them. So when they have physical disabilities, it's doubled. The pressure is doubled on them, because now they've got limitations, and how do we meet those limitations? And that's exactly what we tell them to come through a process with us, and that's where we meet some of those challenges.
Okay, thank you very much for that detailed explanation, Valerie. And over to Gloria. And Gloria, I also want to ask you, while talking about your organization and how do men and women who are differently able benefit, I want you to also tell us, how do differently able men communicate or indicate their different abilities while you're describing to us what we're asking you? So take it away, Gloria.
Thank you. Well, as Valerie said, men, whether they're differently abled or not, have a big challenge in expressing themselves. So, and as Valerie said, if they do have a disability, whether it's visible or invisible, the challenges or the obstacles that they face are doubled. So most of the men who come through my program, through Clearly Speaking, not through community outreach, but through Clearly Speaking, it's individual coaching. And it's in those sessions, I get them to talk about themselves, because I do ask probing questions. And what I found was that because it's just one person, just me, they open up to me and they share things that they probably wouldn't share elsewhere. But it's all done through the communication process. So for example, I could be asking them a question, and they could be giving me an explanation of maybe what happened when they were young. If I don't understand it, I will say, well, I don't understand. Can you explain? So I'm approaching their challenges through a communication channel to help them to extract it out of them. As Valerie said, you have to yank it out of them, but it's all done through communication. And when they do realize that that's what's happening, by that time, they're comfortable in expressing themselves. And I've heard from them that what happened as a result of the coaching is that they're able to communicate better with in their personal lives and in their social lives. The workplace, it is very evident where maybe they go in the morning and they say good morning, and people would be looking at them, whereas before they wouldn't say good morning. So there are changes that are
Thank
happening.
you very much also.
Yes.
Okay, there was some static there a while ago, but I heard you. So thank you also, Gloria, for sharing. And based on the work that you both do, what have you observed about assumptions and societal treatment towards differently abled persons, particularly when they have to access employment or other different services? Is it different for them, or is it similar to differently abled women? And any one of you can go first.
Okay, I'll go first, Valerie, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Okay. Generally, both men and women are treated the same. And some of the assumptions that are made of them are that they have no social skills, they can't function in a social environment, they're not smart or intelligent, they're accustomed to being treated like this, so it doesn't bother them, or that it could be a liability if they are hired, or we have to make special accommodations for them. Or maybe we have to put up with unpredictable and erratic behavior. However, some of these assumptions are what dictate how they are treated by society. So, and I can't remember the question. Can you repeat the question for me? Did I ask the question?
I believe you did, but I was asking, what have you observed, based on the work that you do, what have you observed about the assumptions and societal treatment towards differently abled persons? For example, when they access employment, and I know Valerie would speak more to that, but also when they access services like yours. So are they different or similar to women? So, but I think you touched on it pretty good.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks for that question, Camille, and thanks, Gloria, for touching on it, because I want to go back to what you had said earlier, Gloria. What we've noticed as part of the communication pieces is that when men and women are put into group sessions, very little comes out of their, out of the response from them. Whereas if you put them in a room specifically with you and you're trying to get out information, you would get out a lot more. Sometimes they will not indulge in talking about personal issues, and therefore it becomes easier to do a one-on-one with individuals that become more comfortable speaking to you. When you go into the workplace, our mandate is to help individuals to, number one, find resourceful employers that are open to accepting individuals that might have different abilities. And even if they have challenges, physical challenges, mobility issues, mental health issues, it doesn't matter. Our job is to educate the employer first. We do an orientation with the employer so that they're well aware of who they're getting, so that there is no discrimination in the workplace. Now, when it comes to actual working in a workplace, you can talk to the management and ask them to come into an educational program, so all the other staff members can also get educated on how to treat others in the workplace. But it happens right across the board, where sometimes an individual that might have different challenges or different abilities might say, you know what, I'm being treated unfairly. It is important for that individual to take it up with HR. It is important for that individual to communicate that piece with the employer. And that's where we come in to say, listen, if you're having those challenges, you need to come back to us. We will do the talking for you. So you don't have to go into any kind of human rights issues, because then you're out of a job, correct? You want to maintain that job, you want to maintain communication, and it needs to be done respectfully, and it needs to be done in a proper manner, professionally.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Valerie. And given the nature of the work that you do and what you offer and provide for people, particularly differently abled persons, I'm interested in the training specifically for men. Do they come to the trainings? Because I know since you all started talking, I've been hearing, what the men, in terms of asking or not asking questions and so forth. So do they come to the trainings? And if so, what are the ones in which they seem to be most interested in? Any one of you can start with.
Okay, Valerie, I'll go first, because you will be able to fill in the details, more details. So the training that they will access will depend on the industry and the position and how motivated or encouraged they are. And as I mentioned, I work with organizations like Community Outreach and Aware that offer comprehensive training programs. And in Valerie's case, in customer service, and in Aware, digital media. So I deliver the communication piece, which is, as Valerie mentioned, is the first training as such in the program. And that sets the tone for the program, for the rest of the program. And Valerie can delve more into the rest of the program that the other facilitators contribute to in the customer service program. So Valerie, I'll let you take over.
Yeah, and you're right in saying that communication is the key component in the actual training, and it sets the tone. That's absolutely correct. But what we've seen is sometimes men tend to, they're always there, they're there, but sometimes they tend to, like I said, not ask the questions. But what we find is based on the skill set. Now, many of them have come to us and said, you know, we've been doing dishwashing or we've been doing a desk job for the longest time and we want to get into something else. It becomes a second career. For the second career options, we have different training modules which allow them to take the skills that we have and now transfer them into something else, correct? So you could be doing a desk job, but if you enjoy cooking at home, let's get you trained so that you can get into a second career and move into hospitality and culinary. So we give people an option to really tell us what their choices are, number one, but what is their hobby? What do they love doing? Because you don't want to go to work every day hating the job. You want to go into the job enjoying what you want to do in life. And that's how you stay there and you consider the job with longevity. You stay there with loyalty to the company. That's where you're going to get your promotion, correct? Now, if you want to go into self-employment, that's a totally different game, because then you start thinking about, hey, I can offer my skills to someone and I can offer my talent to someone and make money. That's a different ballgame. And then what we see from men is, hey, I want to do something and this is my piece. I want to take ownership of it. And I think that's the key piece that we constantly go back to individuals, especially men with different challenges, where we're saying, you know what, you might not be able to work in an environment where you're speaking a lot, but if you enjoy cooking and you're speaking to your team, that's great. Enjoy it and be a part of, you know, a new talent, a new culture, a different mindset, a different community. And that's what we encourage people to do.
Okay, and thank you so much for that, Valerie. Before we continue, I just want to make a few special announcements at this time. So we have Lunch and Learn event on the Residential School Systems 101, and there will be documentary screening, speakers, presenters, performances, dances, story time, craft activities with Jay and Gizmo. And it's on Saturday, November 5th from 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern Time at the Wolf Performance Hall, London Public Library, which is situated at 251 Dundas Street, London, Ontario. It is a free event. So if you're interested or want more information, please contact us at 437-889-8329 or email info@voiceofmen360.org. We also have the third Global Observance, a week-long celebration of International Men's Day from Sunday, November 13th to Saturday, November 19th. Every day we will be having 2 hours of virtual event. It will be through Zoom, so please register to join. We are looking for speakers from all walks of life. We also want to recognize men who have been contributing to their families, communities, organizations, and to society. Please nominate them and let us know. Again, if you want more information, please contact us at 437-889-8329 or email us at info@voiceofmen360.org. You can also find more details on our Facebook group and page under Voice of Men 360. So, Valerie and Gloria, this is a very fruitful discussion, and I want to hear more about your programs, particularly the BASE program, BASE, and how is it designed to help differently abled persons? How do they benefit, and are they applicable to both differently abled men and women?
Yeah, the base program was based on individuals that had learning challenges. And so we wanted individuals to do continued education. Now, when I talk about continued education, it could be starting with school, correct? So we would help the individuals that are having some disability learning challenges and turn that into making it positive by bringing together the tutor and the student. And then we give them the year's training, but it's a paid program. So individuals that have the ability to make that small payment to us, then we connect them with the tutors. But it goes into continued education after that. So let's say they've come out of college, or they haven't finished their GED and they want to start. There are different avenues that we put them into so that they can do maybe a night school, correct? At the using Toronto District School Board adult night programs, we can offer them that program. Or we can help them to get into community programs that are totally free. Many individuals don't even know there are community programs totally free that we can access for them. But it depends on what their skill set is, what area they're getting into, what industry they're getting into. At this point, some of them could be government funded programs that might be absolutely free of cost. So if you're living in the Ontario region and you feel that you need some additional support, connect with us. We'll maybe make those referrals to you, and you can avail of those services absolutely free. So the base program was building an education foundation. And what we are looking at is giving them the total basics of just doing English and math. And that's the key issue when it comes to getting into jobs. So when you're asked questions in an interview, then you know how to answer those questions, and you won't be, hesitating with answers, and you won't be giving answers that are one yes and no. You would be talking a little bit about yourself to convince the employer that I'm good for this job. So as part of the learning curve, we take them through the learning challenges that they might have as part of school, and then take them into continued education, into career development. And so that's a whole, curve of different learning skills.
Okay, thank you very much, Valerie. Gloria?
Yes, and so what Valerie was talking about, for example, in the interview, where they are able to articulate what they are thinking, or the answers to their questions, and do that clearly and confidently, so that the employers can see their potential, or the employers can say, you know what, yes, you're going to be fit, you're going to be a great fit for this job. So one part of the training that I offer that addresses this is public speaking simplified, and it addresses impromptu speaking, which is what you do during an interview, vocal clarity, vocabulary, using the right words. And especially in impromptu speaking, it eliminates the filler words, which does not portray a lot of confidence. The public speaking simplified also includes listening and asking better questions, asking intelligent questions, because that's something we don't do. And part of the training that is offered and that is not really spoken about much is impression management. And impression management is really every time you are seen or heard, you create an impression. And that impression dictates how you are treated. So how you communicate, which is verbally or non-verbally, how you communicate is how you're perceived, and how you're perceived is how you're treated. And if you don't like the way you're being treated, look at the way you're communicating. So this ties in, this is good for not only differently abled men, it also for differently abled women and those who are not differently abled. Other training that I present include presentation skills, networking skills. And in the networking skills, it's how do you build rapport? How do you introduce yourself? How do you develop relationships and maintain those relationships? Because those relationships could be the contacts you need later on when you are looking for a job or when you are looking for something else. So yes, again, my programs are definitely applicable to both men and women.
Okay, thank you very much for that as well, Gloria. And that brings me to another question, because the programs that you offer and the work that you do cater for both differently abled men and women and able-bodied men and women. And I want to ask you, what similarities and differences have you observed, if any, between differently abled men compared to able-bodied men, given some of the things you talked about, impression management, confidence during interviews, etc.? And any one of you can go first.
I'm going to start, and then Gloria, you can piggyback, and
Sure.
I'll get back again. I think what's important is we tend to look at differently challenged men with a different set of eyeglasses. I don't look at it that way. I look at it where everyone has a gifting, period, and use that gifting to do things according to what you feel you can comfortably do, right? And so I refuse to make the difference between able-bodied and non-able bodies. And I don't mean that disrespectfully. I'm saying that there are giftings each one has, talents that each one has, that can be utilized to the maximum. I've seen men that have mobility issues and sometimes cognitive issues, sometimes they're individuals that have mental challenges. But when they have an idea and they are determined to do the job, they do it irrespective. They do it because they're enjoying it. When they have the difficulty is, I feel, when they're not trained enough, or they still need to understand the skills that they have to have in order to complete the jobs. But like I said, society tends to look at it differently. I don't. And how do they overcome some of those challenges? That's when communication becomes important. We ask most men and women, able bodies and those with challenges, speak out, let us know what you need so we can train you effectively.
Thank you so much, Valerie. And Gloria?
Yes, and piggybacking on what Valerie says, society will treat us, everybody, according to how they want, if we don't let them know how we need to be treated. So for those differently abled men and women, they need to speak up. Just society will treat us or treat them, as I mentioned, how they want to treat them. And we, the public, we, the other people, have to be educated to know how to treat them, because I'm sure there are lots of us who know people who have different abilities, but we don't necessarily talk to them because we don't know how to talk to them. We don't know if we should talk to them. We don't know if what we're saying is appropriate. So we, the public, need to be educated, but also the differently abled persons also need to educate us. They need to educate us as to how they want to be treated, what their goals and dreams are, who they are. Because again, if they don't, agencies and corporations and communities and government will decide how they want to treat them and define how they want to treat them. And most of the time, and something as simple as the language that we use, differently abled or disabled, how do they want to be treated? How do they want to be identified? These are things that they also have to be, to help us with. And they can become ability ambassadors. I know the Disability Channel has, if you go to their website, they have a page on ability ambassadors. They can become ability ambassadors in their communities and businesses and trades and education, which will help to bring awareness to how they should be treated, and also help everyone else, those who are not differently abled, to treat them in a respectful way and to provide opportunities and accessibilities and accommodations for them. And also to let them know that there is more to them than their disability. And they should be motivated more by their abilities rather than be controlled by their disabilities.
Thank you also, Gloria, for that. And both you and Valerie took me back, and if I may add, to when I was working in the Social Policy Unit and Disability Studies with former lecturer and pioneer of social policy and social work and disability studies, Dr. at Cambridge of the University of the West Indies. And she was my mentor, and I learned a lot from her about vulnerable groups, particularly differently abled persons who have to be treated in a way based on societal norms and values and be reintegrated through different works of individuals, institutions, groups, etc. And people like you all who are teaching them that, hey, you can be ability ambassadors, you can be functional, you can do the same things that able-bodied persons can do and get the respect and dignity that they deserve. So thank you so much for that. And it brings me now to a different type of question, because we all know that Canada has a large immigrant population, and among them will be differently abled men and women who are also immigrants. So I want to ask you, does your organization also work with immigrant men? And if so, what type of programs are they interested in, and how do they benefit? And any one of you can go.
I'll let Valerie go first, because her organization has a lot of programs that I piggyback on that, or that I'm involved in as far as communication is concerned. So your chance now, Valerie.
Thank you. Yes, we do. We do get a lot of newcomers that are referred to our program through other agencies. But next year, we're hoping to actually get a program running as of, I think, April of next year. We're going to be doing open sessions where newcomers can actually register and come for the programs. These would be half an hour to 1 hour workshops where they would learn about simple things like, what do you do when you come to Canada? Who do you connect with? Where do we go for if we are from different cultural groups? Where do we go and how do we connect? What are the meetup options? How do I get my driving license? How do I get my SIN? Where do I, put my kids to school? What are the benefits of healthcare? So these are part of the workshops that we will be conducting weekly, and we're going to be mandating some of the basics of why you need to know more about Canada and how to integrate into society. That's going to be part of the newcomer program. We are already doing it individually, with individuals, with families that are coming into the country through the Ontario Works program, through the disability program, and through the immigration program. So we're already getting some of those clients, but we're not doing them in mass numbers as part of group sessions. We will be starting that next year. What I would say when individuals do come to the country for initially, I'm going to recommend 211.ca. That's just write it down somewhere. 211.ca has every social service agency, every health agency, disability groups, women's groups, children's groups, every single group across the country. So whether you tap into BC or Halifax or Ontario, it doesn't matter. 211 gives you every agency across the board.
Okay, and before I let Gloria answer, I just want to ask if you have any branches in other parts of the provinces, given what you just said.
So we do have remote satellite offices across Ontario. We don't have them across the country yet. We have partnered with Calgary, where I've got an agency in Calgary, a community agency. I've got one in BC and one in Nova Scotia, but I don't have actual physical offices. Now, because of COVID, everything is virtual. So I'm right across the globe.
Okay, thank you for that. Gloria, anything you want to add?
Yes, and it's as far as communication is concerned. So newcomers or immigrants, when they come, they are coming speaking their language. They may not be coming from a culture or a society that are English speaking. So they speak English as a second language. And the way they speak English as a second language depends on who they learn it from. And also culture. Culture, again, has a huge influence on communication. So when they come to Canada, whether they are white collar or blue collar workers, but especially blue collars who are in managerial positions, they don't easily integrate into the Canadian workplace because they have this barrier, this language barrier that prevents them from socializing, prevent them from maybe even getting promoted, being successful in their jobs or careers. So how I help them is to help them to reduce their accent. and not to get rid of their accent, to reduce their accent, because our accents, all of us have accents. Our accents differentiate us from each other, from others, right? It makes us special, but it has to be clearly heard and understood. So my program, in the accent reduction program, includes, again, vocal exercises and tongue twisters, pronunciation, grammar, and speaking frequently, impromptu speaking also. So I cover the whole spectrum of communication as far as speaking English as a second language. And I'm also an ESL instructor. So I am able to bring in all of that training, all the experience that I have, and all that I have personally, and all the experience from working with immigrants since 2000 into the program. And what I have developed is a very powerful, effective program that helps them to see improvement in their communication after a couple of hours.
Okay, thank you for that, Gloria. And both you and Valerie are doing amazing work. And this one prompts me now to ask you another important question. Are you currently serving Indigenous people or communities, or working with any Indigenous organizations?
Yes, I do. We are right across Ontario. We have agencies not only in Toronto that we work with, but we work with a lot of the housing agencies. So people that are housed in the native and Indigenous individuals, families that are housed in these communities are what other people we serve, as well as we've tapped into women's shelters and especially the men's shelters as well, prison persons that are incarcerated. Because we work with them to expunge their records, so it's called record suspension. We work with individuals to get that done. I've gone into several penitentiaries and places where the court systems to help individuals, whether it is a custody issue, whether it is just a small whatever violation in the court systems. So we work with men and women from Aboriginal and Native groups right across from, I think we've gone right up to Penetang, which is up north. And we are working in Toronto, Peel region, Halton, Durham. I've gone to Kingston a few times, Kingston, Ontario. But now with that closure, people have been moved around. So yeah, so that's pretty much what we do. Yeah.
Okay, and before I go to Gloria, based on what you were saying now, I want to ask you any success stories from your past clients, especially Indigenous men, and or unforgettable experiences that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I mean, I have got plenty. I wouldn't mind writing a book once I retire, but I mean, these are awesome testimonials that come out because, as I said earlier in my message, people need hope. People need someone to talk to, someone that they can hold hands with, and it doesn't have to be someone from their community. It could be someone totally unknown to them. I usually recommend women with women, men with men, and so or sometimes if it's a couple, then family oriented pieces, then we go as two individuals going to help the family. But I had a specific client that he came to me when he was 17 and got into a lot of trouble as a teen, and had a very a father who was very tough with him. I mean, he would be belted most of the time, and due to that, at a very early age, he took to drugs, and he got to a point where he was ready to commit suicide. And he came to me on that specific day. He came to our office without knowing who was going to help him. He came and he asked for help, and he said, I really need help. If not tonight, I'm going to take my life. And I basically sat with him for about 2.5 hours. And I said, if you can work with me for just 12 weeks, we're going to change things around. He said, this is all I'm giving you, 12 weeks. After that, you won't see me. And I said, that's fine, just give me 12 weeks. And I started him off with just giving him some basic tools and resources that he could do with, day programs, and eventually moving him into the faith-based groups that he was associated with before. But I connected them differently. I asked him to connect with them based on a hobby he had of playing an instrument. And so he went in there, started with that. And through the program, he was married. He had 2 children. He was able to get the children back. 2 kids were back with him, custody issues. We managed to do that. We were able to give him a job with training. So he got a job, and he got a job in social services. And from that, he got promoted to the City of Toronto. And now he's a social worker with the City of Toronto. He's got his 3rd child back now, and he's a wonderful dad. He communicates fantastically. I mean, overall, he's got a great communication piece going with his children. And I feel that through it's 12 years now. Every time I think about him, I say, if that could happen to him, it can happen to anyone that can reach out for help. So don't believe anyone that tells you there's no more hope, or there's no more, there's no light at the end of the tunnel. I refuse to. Call me if you need help. I will make sure that you get the help. That's it, period. I don't care which world you come from.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that, Valerie. And Gloria, you want to add anything to that?
Yes. And honestly, when Valerie says call me, call her, because she is a mover and a shaker. She is so dependable, so reliable, not only for differently abled people, but everyone. As far as serving in the Indigenous community, I have not done that. I haven't had any clients there, but I think after this session, I will be having some heavy conversations with a certain person who is here now, and see how that can be changed.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. And the conversation is so fruitful and so in depth that there's some other questions that I was asked to ask you. And how, based on talking about the clients and interacting with clients, I want to ask you, how do you handle if any of your clients come across any legal issues, for example, if they were treated disrespectfully because of their circumstances? So briefly, you can tell us if there's been an issue and how you handled it.
I haven't had such situations, but that's because I do individual clients, but I'm sure Valerie has.
Yeah, we do. In fact, that's part of our Second Chance program, where they come in for counseling, and once we discuss what the need is, then we take them through the process of whether it's a record suspension or whether it could be just a legal matter, custody issues, marriage counseling. We deal with individuals that might have, like you said, issues with the law, issues with human rights, issues with diversity, issues that are, it could be, I went on a holiday and I've come back and I have to pay $6,500 to the government. It could be anything regarding legal, because we have a small legal team with paralegals, and then we have a professional lawyers that assist in the program. So what we do is we actually take all the information, submit it to the paralegal. They prepare the client with all the paperwork. And then once that paperwork is completed, we get legal aid to assist where possible. When the client is not eligible for legal aid, which is a government provided legal system, then we look for free avenues, which allows individuals to pay as minimal as possible or not at all. And then the third option would be if they do have the resources and they're not, there's no other option other than to go to someone who needs to be paid. We put them in touch with the right lawyers that would be able to eventually, lower the cost for them with some flexibility, but at the same time give them that legal support. So it could mean from an HR perspective, it could be family matters, it could be it could be criminal matters. It doesn't matter. We just handle all.
Okay, great. Gloria?
Yes, I don't have any such situations happening at my end.
Okay, but this is important information, and thank you so much, Valerie, for sharing. And I also want to ask about what are the chances with self-employed opportunities or entrepreneurship, if any? I know people tend to be interested in these kinds of opportunities. So if any, can you tell us?
Sure. Gloria, do you want to?
I'm sorry, can you rephrase the question for me? Is self-employment opportunities
what are the chances, yes, in what work that you do, if there are chances for self-employed opportunities or entrepreneurship, if any? I mean, it's just a question because I know people tend to look for these kinds of opportunities regardless of the program.
Yeah, for what I'm doing, there probably is, but what I think is most important, especially with what I'm doing, is you have to love what you're doing. And I think it would be the same thing for Valerie, right? You have to love what you're doing to be able to provide the best service to your clients. So, and they have to not do it, not because it is going to make them more money or it's going to bring them in contact with influential people, whatever. It has to be for the client. They have to have the client's interests at heart, 100%.
Definitely. And this brings us to our final question. And of course, you know, what
Can I just jump in?
Sure.
Can I just jump in? So we do have a self-employment program. And it's a 12-week program where we invite individuals that have an idea and we give them 12 steps of how to eventually get into the business. But the idea has to be concrete. You can't say, you know, I enjoy painting and I'm going to be an artist and then have a gallery, but not have the resources to back you up. So if you're in Ontario, we might be able to assist you with that. Correct? We can get you into the workshop. But let's say you're from across the globe and you're looking for resources and to start a business. The idea needs to be competitive enough and strong enough to say, you know what, this is really going to make me money. Don't go into business where you're going to lose. You have to do enough research that will allow you to take you to that next level. Because what I'm starting to see over the years is that people have an idea and think it's going to materialize and I'm going to become a millionaire overnight. It doesn't happen that way. It's a lot of hard work. When I started the agency several years ago, it was just an idea, but it took me about 4.5 years to 5 years to develop my relationship with the community in order to do what I'm doing today. And so if you're thinking of an idea, put it down in writing, take it to different people, ask them their thoughts on it and how they would feel if you were to start it. And people are honest. They will give you their feedback.
Oh, great. And thank you so much for that, ladies. And finally, and you know, I want to ask, well, actually, I would like to ask basically, what are some solutions you propose in your organization working towards addressing the issues that differently abled men and women face in society, such as, you know, some of the things we talked about, like unemployment, of lack of access to things like education and so forth. And any one of you can go first. What solutions would you propose in terms of your organization working towards addressing these societal issues?
Okay.
So yeah. So having said that, we're always being fed information on what the government is doing. So we look at that as the first option, so that we can eventually taper it down to putting it forward to the community. Correct. So we're always looking at ways in which we can not just mobilize individuals with better services, but we're always looking at where the need is the most. And so we diversify, even if I have to diversify tomorrow based on changes today, we're always ready with any kind of disaster situations or things. So when COVID hit, we were the first ones with food. Food that we could take to families, to seniors that couldn't get out of the home. So I think we've got to think, we've got to think running, basically, right? You've got to be ready for changes as they come. So yeah, for me, it's just diversification. That's it.
Well, thank you very much, Valerie. And Gloria?
With my business, there's not so much an immediacy as in Valerie's community, because it's communication, and people come to me when they need it, when there is a need, but there is not so much an urgency or immediacy as, delivering food to seniors or helping newcomers immediately to know, what services are available to them and so forth.
Okay, and thank you very much for that, Gloria. And so how can our audience reach out to you or get to know more about your organization, services, or programs?
I think they could just get onto our website, which is www.communityoutreach.ca. So it's community outreach, one word, .ca. And the other option, the other agency, which is a charitable arm, is secondchanceinc.ca. secondchanceinc.ca. I would like to be bold enough to say, if there's anyone that would like to, if you're in Toronto or if you're in Ontario and you want to volunteer, you're welcome to, just be a part of us. If you have some skills and you feel that you want a job, you're welcome to connect with us. If you feel that you want to donate, that goes, right across. We give gift cards to individuals that are really desperate, and we do this all the time. So if you feel that you could donate to us, you're welcome to do that. And if you feel that you want to contribute in some way, your skill sets that are unique, especially in IT, connect with me.
Thank you very much, Valerie. And Gloria, how can our audience connect with you?
You can check my website, www.clearlyspeaking, CLEARLY speaking.ca, or reach out to me via email, info@clearlyspeaking.ca.
Okay, thank you. And before I make the usual announcement, I would like to add in closing that this was a very fruitful discussion. It was enlightening. It would be empowering for a lot of people, because we're talking about differently able persons, particularly men. And we also talk about immigrant populations as well as Indigenous populations, which are also critical. So it was nice of us to really hear from two wonderful ladies, Gloria and Valerie, in talking about what their organizations do, how they help differently able men and women, how these populations benefit from the services that they do, in terms of comparing, differently abled persons to able-bodied persons, and how best we help them in terms of, being an ability ambassador. And it was really nice to talk about things like employability, opportunities for entrepreneurship, looking at other types of programs like the BASE program, and finally talking about solutions, looking at things like diversity, etc. So thank you so much, ladies, for that. And do stay on after the program, because we always like to ask our guests for feedback. So thank you, audience, for tuning in as well. I hope you benefited from this wonderful discussion, and I hope you do tune in to Voice of Men 360, as well as you reach out to Gloria and Valerie through the communication they provided just now. So I would like to talk about our live shows. And we usually have Open Up, right? Sharing your personal life journey. And that is a live talk show, which is on every Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. We also have Vili, which is a Tamil live talk show. That is on Sundays at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. We have the monthly webinar, like the one-year viewing, which is on the first Saturday of every month at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And this is where we bring expertise organizations like Gloria's and Valerie's and discuss a particular topic each time. We also have the monthly special show, The Unspoken Tears, and that's the second Saturday of every month from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And this focus is on domestic violence against men, bullying, male sexual abuse, traumas, porn addiction, and human trafficking. We also have the Authors Circle, and that's where authors who have been contributing in the areas of men's matters around the world will be participating and sharing their contributions and experiences. So this is usually on the third Saturday of every month from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern Time. We also have our podcast, and all of our shows are available on 6 platforms, including iPhone, Google Play, and so on. We have the monthly men's group meeting, and this is for men only, and it's conducted by men. So please encourage your male friends, male family members, male clients, etc., to join in. It's every 2 weeks on Tuesday from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. through Zoom. And the next one will be on Tuesday, October 4th at 6 p.m. So please note date and time, and you can join through Zoom, right? The link is available on our Facebook page and group. And there is the Pass the Talking Stick. It is an Indigenous peer-to-peer support group. So information on how to register for any of these upcoming programs can be found on our Facebook page, Voice of Men 360. Please register and invite your friends to join us. We're always looking for new members, volunteers to join us at Voice of Men 360. There are no limitations with gender, age, nationality, or ethnic groups. All walks of life can participate in any of our shows. So if you want to be a guest on any of our shows or willing to be part of our organization and help us directly or indirectly, please reach out to us. We would love to work with individuals, professionals, experts, community organizations, associations, corporations, government officials, and businesses. Again, the phone number is 437-889-8329. You can contact us using email address info@voiceofmen360.org. You can visit our website, www.voiceofmen360.org. You can also find us on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok. So please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Voice of Men 360. We want to reach out to more people and help more. Please continue your support. Thank you, and see you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Recording stopped.